102.9, the new KBLX. Good morning. Welcome to Saturday. Nikki Thomas, you know what that means. That means it is time for Bayview. And, of course, it means that I have some exciting guests in studio with us. We have Brendan Anderson. He is the program manager of the African American Male Achievement. How are you?
Hi, Nikki. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And also we have Angela Zusman. She's the executive director of Story for All and the project director for the African American Oral History Project. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. See, when you introduce folks and you have all those things you have to say, all those words in the title, that means you guys are doing something big and important. And that's absolutely what it is. I'm really excited to have a conversation about this exciting project. I have a book in front of me. It is literally one of the most beautiful covers of any book I've ever seen in my whole life. It's called The Griots of Oakland, Voices from the African American Oral History Project. And also this involves an exhibit as well. So we're going to talk about all that and then some. So let's start at the beginning. And whichever one of you wants to jump in, it is totally fine. We're just chilling, having a conversation. How did this all begin? And what is this all about?
Yeah, good question.
You got to start at the bottom.
Well, the African American Male Achievement Office was one of the first, if not the first, in the nation to call out the disparities in education for African American males across the nation and specifically in Oakland. And so one of the things that we wanted to do initially is just hear the voices of our youth and make sure that they are heard. And so we did a listening campaign for our first 2 years and just went around to each school and interviewed the boys of what their days are like, how they feel connected to school, what would they do if they were the principal of the school, how they like their teachers, what subjects they like. And invariably, we got to see the wide perspective of African American males in Oakland. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's a very narrow perspective. And so we just really wanted to uncover all the beauty and brilliance that there is in our communities with Black boys, around Black boys, and really highlight their achievements so that the world can see a different perspective of them.
This is so awesome. It's so awesome. Now, as a parent, I have a daughter. I have one daughter. But I know specifically that you started in the right place when you said, let's listen to our boys, you know, because there's so many instances where they are not heard, they're not listened to. And, you know, I've been working in the community for a good long time here in the Bay Area. You know, I've witnessed the magic that happens when you allow a young person to start speaking, you know. Because you have to step back and you're like, wow, you know, and that was an excellent place to start talking. I love it when folks come and sit down and they've got very innovative things, innovative words. You said a listening campaign. I've never heard of that.
Right.
How did that come about?
Well, again, just being able to go across all the schools and really listen. It's funny, as you say, these innovative things, sometimes the simple things are not simple.
That's it.
It makes so much sense if our students are our customers and the ones that we need to serve, we shouldn't be coming to them and saying, this is what you need, this is how you need to learn.
Right.
We have to come to them and find out, how do you learn? What do you like to learn? What are your interests? And then we can disguise the vegetables and show them in a way that we find out what they want and then we give them what they need. Wow,
I like that. Okay, so you got your wordsmith over here. Then we disguise the vegetables. Yeah, that's genius. So I'm just curious, what was the first reaction from these young boys when you went in and said, talk, we're listening? What was the first reaction from them?
Excitement. At first it was a little withdrawn, I'd say, because they're not used to that.
Yeah.
And so, especially coming in and not being at the school all the time. So they're like, who is this person? Why do you care about me? No one else does. Not that no one else does, but a lot of times people come into their life and out of their life very quickly. And so stability is very important for them.
Right.
And so we wanted to really, again, uncover and lift them up. So when we got into these ciphers, basically, and connected with these students, and they saw other Black men like them, they were able to really share their feelings authentically. And so we were able to do it in a way where we do want to capture the way they learn and their interests so that we can translate that back to the teachers and to the administrators at school. And then again, really for the way a lot of the media portrays black men and black boys across the nation, whether it's getting arrested, whether it's drug dealers, whether there's only like entertainers, athletes. So there might be 5 or 6 things that everyone thinks that black boys are good at, but really there's thousands of things that we're good at. I mean, there's black boys that have built their own plane and flew around the planet. So there are things that are happening. He's 24 years old.
Wow. Okay. And so once the boys started talking, what was the biggest revelation to you? Because I know that, there might have been some things that were repeated or like a thread of a similarity between all the stories and things. But what was the biggest thing that came out of it?
Out of this project or the listening campaign? Because the listening campaign preceded this project.
Okay, let's start with the listening campaign. We can do both. Let's start with the listening campaign.
So the listening campaign was, again, really just to hear what they had to say so we can allow them to share and also bring that back to their teachers. What we found was a lot of them had their own narrow perspective of what it is, of their opportunities. So they wanted to be entertainers, they wanted to be athletes, but some of them do want to be pilots, some of them do want to be engineers. So what we found is a lot of times schools can be dream killers. So where they come in the door and they already know in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade what they want to be. Again, this is disguising the vegetables. You want to be an NFL athlete, well, you have to go to college. You have to have a 3.0, 2.0 to play in sports. There's a lot of these athletes when they're in middle school and elementary school, they want to be something, but then they don't realize all the academic things that come behind that. So we were able to make them aware and not kill their dreams. And I think that's the biggest thing that this listening campaign and ultimately the project that we did in partnership with Story for All is really giving them this wide perspective, 360 degrees of what it is to be a black man. And you can choose so many different things and multiple things. You can be a professional athlete and an accountant.
Yeah, you can.
You can be an attorney and a pool player. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. You can, and allowing them to dream and believe that, and see these images of themselves and other black men and boys who have reached their goals is really the key. Because once they see that they can do it, once you can believe it, you can achieve it.
Ooh. Okay, I'm sweating a little bit right now. Sweating a little bit, but it's so true. Just listening to you recount all these things, sometimes there's so many things that can be dream killers to our kids, and it's so interesting that even with a young person, like the faces I'm looking at on the cover of the book, you have to peel back so many layers. It's like, how is all this stuff going on inside a 12-year-old's head? There's so many layers that you pull back, and once you pull back the layers and that real person starts to blossom, it's such big, important work because I know, even the folk that are listening right now that are full grown, over 30, over 40, over 50, over 60, we still deal with so many things as an adult. So when somebody comes in, you're a young person and says, you know what, let's start addressing these crazy things right now. Getting all the crazy stuff out of there and getting the real stuff out into the world. So it's so awesome and wonderful. So educate me here. Listening campaign, and then that unfolded into our project here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about, the power of being listened to and really understanding that can be transformative to people, and also really wanting to understand better what's happening for these young men so that we can understand them so that they can be represented more effectively, more holistically, and so that the services can be there for them that they really need. So that was the vantage point of the project funder, which is Alameda County Healthcare Services. There's a department within there called the Center for building healthy schools and communities. And the director of that department is Tracy Shear, and she has a vision for these equity initiatives that they're doing all throughout Alameda County. So they knew about the listening campaign, and they knew about us at Story for All. And at Story for All, that's our specialty, is helping to collect stories and actually train people to be story collectors. Wow. So that we're not just coming in cold and asking people to divulge all of their secrets, but that we're actually training community people and peers. In this case, we trained a group of African-American young men, and they were the ones who conducted peer-to-peer interviews with the other guys. So that they become the legacy holders. They become the carriers of the story, and they're kind of growing as they're listening. Yeah. And it created a lot of good rapport between interviewee and interviewer. So anyway, Tracy Shear knew about both of us, and she brought our offices together. And then we designed this project, which had two different components. So the first component was this training of these smaller group of young men. So we went to bunch of different locations, high schools. We put on, recruitment events where we told them what we were doing, and we recruited a group of young men, interviewed them, and then selected a few to participate in the project. And then for about 6 to 8 months, these group of young men were meeting every Friday for a couple of hours, and we taught them interview skills and oral history methodology and how to ask good questions and active listening. There were also components about African-American culture and Oakland history, so they would have a grounding from which to ask really good questions. So after this pretty lengthy training, which in itself was one of the goals of the project, was just to create this really uplifting, transformative experience for this small group of young men. Once they were ready, then we went out on the streets with the cameras and started conducting interviews. Wow. So we went to 12 different locations over the course of about 4 to 5 months. And all told, they interviewed over 100 African-American young men purposefully from all sorts of diverse neighborhoods all around Oakland. So we set up on a street corner in downtown Oakland. We went to a couple schools. We went to 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, 1 high school. We set up at a bus stop, went to a football game. And so we were just there basically in the background while the youth did everything, setting up their equipment, asking the questions, getting consent forms signed, packing it up, recruiting kids to be interviewed. And then after that process was done, then we moved into phase 2, which is now taking these young men's words and images. We had a photographer come and shoot portraits of the youth at the interview site. So we've got these beautiful photos of these beautiful young men to go with their words. So now we're in the process of then taking their wisdom and turning it back to the community so the community can hear what these young guys have to say.
So awesome. So awesome. We are speaking to Angela Zusman and Brendan Anderson, talking about the Griots of Oakland, Voices from the African American Oral History Project. There is an event that I hinted at a little bit earlier. We need to put that out there, like ASAP, because it's happening today, a little bit later on today, and we're catching people at a very pivotal time, very early in the morning. You're sipping on your tea or your coffee, having whatever you have for breakfast, and you're saying, it's a beautiful day. What should I get into today? And here we are at just the right time to say, hey, we've got something great going on in our community, and you should come on out and check it out. So tell us all the specifics about what's going on today.
All right, great. So 4 o'clock today, we're super excited. We're going to be having an exhibit opening at the African American Museum and Library at Oakland. And the address there is 659 14th Street. So from 4 to 7 is the big event. It's the exhibit opening, and it's also the book release for the book. So you'll be able to come and see the exhibit, which is taking parts of the book, some of these quotes, some of these photographs, some of these stories, some of these videos. So you'll be able to hear directly from these young men what they have to say. And then during the event, a lot of the youth will be there so they can be honored for their work. This is, again, a big part of this project, is showing these young men that we care. You're valuable. You mean something to us. We're here to show you our support. You're beautiful. What you have to say matters. So this is a really big deal, I think, for the young men, to show that people really do care. They will come out and show their support to these guys.
See, our KBLX listeners, our KBLX family, because we say family around here. We are known for stepping up. We're known for supporting our community. So, that you're here, that you say the words, that we have this, and we want, our family to come out and support these young men. I'm sure most of our family, they're saying, hey, I'm on it. What am I going to wear? That's the only question. So we want to see our KBLX family out today from 4 to 7. 4 to 7 today.
Right.
And we are you're in the same vicinity there. You're downtown Oakland, so you could go there, then come on over to Hot Winter Night tonight. So we've got it all.
There we go.
It's
all planned out.
We're planning the whole day for you, because sometimes it's work to plan out what you're going to do.
Not today.
Not today. We're already telling you 2 culturally enriching things to do.
Sure.
You come on out. You check out the exhibit. You see this wonderful book, and it is a beautiful book. It's beautiful. I think all the graphics, in addition to the photographs, are perfect.
Thank you.
And also, just the fact that there are these beautiful faces on the front. It's just awesome, and it's something that everybody should have on the coffee table.
Definitely. We made 2 versions. We made a hardcover for your coffee table, and we made a soft cover, too, because our ambition is to get this book into as many hands as possible.
Right.
Like Brendan was saying, we really are aiming to change the discourse on how African-American young men are perceived and how they perceive themselves.
Right.
So we got to spread the word. People have to see this side of these beautiful young men. So we have the paperback version. It's going to be selling for $14.99. It'll be available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Right.
For bulk orders, they can contact the publisher. I think all that information will be on your website. And 100% of proceeds from this book will go towards future oral history programming with an equity lens in Alameda County. And our first goal is using this money to buy books to give to the youth in Oakland Unified School District.
Awesome.
So if you buy a book or buy 3 books, get some for Christmas presents, you can know that every single penny of this is going to support the young men in your community.
See, you're reading my mind. I was just going to say that. It makes an excellent Christmas gift.
Yeah.
And really, it's an excellent gift to give to a family. If you're close to a family, you know what? Hey, this is a great book for you to have in your house, on your coffee table. And it's beautiful, and it's great reading for especially young people.
I have the best review. We got a lot of great reviews on this book, a lot of great advance praise. But for me, the most meaningful one is I took it over to a friend's house, and their 10-year-old son could not put it down.
Yeah.
And he's African-American. He just could not. And his mom was ecstatic. She's like, I've never seen anything like this. He's going to do a book report on it. Where do I get one? She's like, I want a hardcover and a soft. She was just so happy because he was so engaged by it. He'd never seen anything like it, like we were talking about earlier. Seeing your peers, seeing people just like you, saying things just like you, but being honored for it.
Yeah, that's the magic of it. I think everybody wants to see themselves somewhere, in a book, in a movie, on the street. You want something familiar to say, oh, okay, I'm comfortable now. I can, I can do this. And the book report, you said book report.
Oh, she was just saying he should do a book report.
But it's awesome. That's an awesome project, though, because there's school, and then there's the education you get every day from your family, your parents, your friends. Right. It's an excellent idea to say, hey, I got this great book. You give it to your kid. Let's do a book report on this, or let's do a book report on certain sections of it.
Right.
I did the book report thing over the summer with my daughter.
All right.
It's like, hey, we're gonna read a book and do a book report every day.
Right.
Nice.
So it's great to have some things like that to keep our young people on their toes, regardless. So school is great, but you know what? We need to understand that reading is important in this house. And writing is important in this house, and expressing yourself is important. So, there's so many different messages in that. And I love when we have something like this that can, it could be a part of a process,
right,
or an open dialogue that you have with your kids.
And there's a reflection section in the back that has a whole bunch of questions. So for families, for educators, for policymakers, we want them to really reflect. We want them to think about what they've just read, relate it to what they had expected to find. You know, we want to uncover people's stereotypes and biases. We want people, and I think it's great for the African American community. I think there's a book for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have learned so much from these young men.
Okay, so just random here. I just opened up a random page here.
Mm-hmm.
And one is beautiful. It's a beautifully done book. What makes a man? What makes a man is his actions. You are not a man unless you can provide for yourself fully, being yourself and having something to stand up for. What makes me a man is that I don't give up. A man handles his business. Sacrifice makes a man a man. Being strong and tough. A man has values, has goals, is very courageous, and is smart.
Yeah, and one of the things too is we, being in the school district, we have the reach for the students to be able to go and provide them with these different perceptions of themselves, and really be able to dig deep, so that it's one thing of the perceptions and of themselves, but the other thing is literacy, understanding how important literacy. And if this is a key to open their floodgates to wanting to read more, to loving reading more, that's another goal of ours too. So really getting them to critically think, being able to really love reading. And this is a way when they see books like this and see themselves, they fall into that.
Yeah, and so many things happen. You know, I think even as a grown person, sometimes I can be resistant to stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. We all know that feeling, right?
No.
So, but you know, when you start reading, when you start writing, things that you, especially when you start writing, things that you don't even know are there, come out. And you get to know yourself. I didn't know that was in there. Right? Does that happen to you?
Yeah.
I know it happens to me all the time. You start writing and it's like, I didn't even know that was in there.
Yeah.
So, you know, that is the magic of a project that, you know, can just envelop an entire city and say, hey, we're listening. What do you have? Let us show you who you are and, you know, listen to what you have to say. Right. So this is an awesome book. It's an awesome project. It's an awesome event. Once again, happening today, this afternoon. If you're listening, you know, it's still early, still very early. You can have the whole day planned out. You know, you can start getting your little cute outfit together. It's like, you know, yeah, maybe I'll do farmer's market, then I'll check out the exhibit here, and then I'll go to Hot Winter Night. Get an outfit that'll go through all that. Get something comfortable and cute together. And we have just have the whole day planned out for you. We're speaking to Angela Zusman. She's the executive director of Story for All and the project director for the African American Oral History Project. And Brendan Anderson, he is the program manager for African American Male Achievement, coming together and putting together a very, very impressive project, exhibit, and event happening a little bit later on tonight. I want to touch briefly on just the whole concept of storytelling, oral history, and how exciting that is, you know, just from a cultural, direction. You know, when you allow a person to tell their stories. And I'll put a couple other things in here, quotes that you said, Angela. Power of being listened to. You know, can we talk a little bit about just how powerful that is? You know, when somebody says, tell me who you are, or tell me your story, and you weren't aware that it was in there until somebody asked you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's truly magic. I founded this nonprofit about 3 years ago because previous to that, I'd been doing oral history with individuals and communities, and I was watching them transform in front of my very eyes. Sometimes in a very short space of time, just giving someone the opportunity to talk about themselves and really listening, I was just seeing this amazing transformation.
Right.
So I said to myself, this is so simple, this technology that we humans are equipped with.
Right.
You know, if someone tells a story, the other person listens. This is almost what makes us human. However, we're not necessarily engaging this way very often. And look what can happen when we do engage this way. We can find points of connection, build understanding, build self-esteem, learn. I mean, it's just the sky's the limit. So I decided to create a nonprofit that would take this technology or this methodology and bring it into schools, bring it into communities. So on a larger scale, we can be letting people know you matter, your voice matters.